Welcome back to Timo's Dinky and Diecast. Today we're going to be doing a Burago toy, a Dodge Viper, and this is going to be part of the Canada Day annual invitational challenge, whatever. And so this is the toy I got. I picked this up at a flea market, outdoor flea market between Toronto and Niagara Falls. They're open every weekend, and I could pick this one up, and you can see it's in actually pretty good condition. The paint isn't the greatest, doesn't have any decoration other than the badge on the hood. You can see that the base is not scratched up. It has these whiz wheel style wheels, and so I'm going to open it up. There's no rivets on this. It's got these plastic clips, and they lock in place the plastic thing snaps. And I futzed around with it and figured out how I can get this to pop back out again. It's not really intuitive, it doesn't look like you're doing it, but eventually I was able to get that out. So that's loose, but the front is still in place. It has a similar clip. I was hoping I'd be able to pull it out, but no such luck. I'm going to have to fiddle with a little tab in there that's locking the front in place, and then push it out from the inside. There we go. So you can see those little things have a tab hanging down, and that's what locks it in place. And now those wheels are not removable. They seem to be welded into place, so I'm going to have to do something with those. And now the interior, it's all snapped in place really, really nicely, very slick. And I'm trying to, the headlights and the windshield are attached to each other, but the problem is, of course, the seats are still there, so those came out pretty easily. You can see it was folded into that shape, and it all looks perfect. It's a very well kept toy for sure. Now the windshield is clearly, that's the next step. So I'm going underneath this frame that goes around the bodywork, and that's not helping. I need to get the windshield out. So not difficult. I pull it off that post and out it comes. And now this part's a little bit tricky. I can't figure out how to loosen that off. It's got these parts that come through the hood, but it's obviously on that post. But if I push it off the post, it doesn't want to go any further. So I get the idea that there's a tab there. So let's take it off of the post and then push the whole frame back. You can't see what I'm doing. I got lost off camera, but there it came off. And what it is, there's a tab in the casting that sticks out. You can see it there, and that's what it was hooked onto. So it's very clever design, and it works perfectly, beautifully even. So I put all these parts away into a little bin so they don't get lost. And now we're dealing with the single casting. It's a beautiful casting, really. And this, of course, is another one of my top 10 most beautiful cars ever made. And it's a Dodge Viper. The Viper, they came out with when Chrysler gave their designers full reign, and they came up with some fantastic cars, including this one. Also the PT Cruiser and the beautiful Dodge Prowler. So here I'm cleaning up the casting a little bit, and mostly the casting was in really good condition and almost nothing needed to be done. So there I went to the buffing wheel and buffed it. I still question whether the best thing to do is to buff it, because then there's nothing to hold the paint if it's too shiny. So I didn't show painting it. I used the Vallejo primer, which is white, and I used it with the airbrush, and then I put a layer of the white lacquer spray bomb paint, because what I'm going to be doing is putting stripes. So I'm taping the part where I want the stripes to be, so those are the parts to remain white, as white stripes. Now the trick to getting this to look good is you need to line up the stripes from front to back, because when you look straight onto the model, if you've got it wrong, it's really obvious looking. Now this is pretty straightforward taping, and there's not much to do restoring this model. Nothing needs to be restored. It's basically strip and paint and then reassemble. So I'm taking the time so that you can see what an effort goes into taping something even as simple as this. This is the most simple thing you could do, is to paint a couple of stripes. So just so you get an idea of how much work goes into it. So I've gone across with the full length of stripe, and now I've cut them off and folded them over the bodywork. So I cut it short. So here you can see a little bit better the taping. And I go into the spray booth, and I'm going in with the last remnants of my pink Tamiya primer. This stuff is really great, and I want to do this also. The primer, you're kind of dusting it on, and it seals up the edges of the tape so that a heavier coat of paint won't be able to run under the tape and spoil the tape line. So when this runs out, I'll just be mixing some red paint with the Vallejo primer, acrylic primer. So I didn't show the spray bomb for some reason, but this was spray bomb paint, and it went on beautifully, and I'm very pleased with it. And now I'm going to show you. Usually I really shorten the untaping, and so I'm deliberately not speeding it up. I think one or two places I do speed it up a little bit, but I'm really showing you at normal speed taking this tape off, and how careful I'm doing it, because this just came out of the spray booth less than 10 minutes ago. So the paint is very, very fragile, so I really don't want to touch it if I can avoid it. So to get the tape lifted enough so that I can get my tweezers in, I have to use a toothpick to get it off of the paintwork. And of course the wood of the toothpick is softer than if I use something metal, so it's less likely to damage paint if I scrape near the paint. And this is how I usually take these tapes off. It's quite a painstaking process, because really the tape has done its job, but to take it off you have to not damage the freshly painted surface. So I just take my time. I really take a lot of time to get it right. I was going to leave that tape dangling there because it's underneath the clamp, but then it's just going to get in the way of getting those other tapes off. And when I'm starting one of these, obviously I'm going to be starting at the end of the tape, and that's why I want the tape to be ending on part of the bodywork that's not visible. It's painstaking to do this, but it's actually really, really rewarding in a case like this, where it's such a dramatic reveal of the of the paint job that I'm looking for here. And you can see it's not just two stripes, it's a bunch of little segments with two stripes. In this case, on this model, there's 5 different segments. There's the hood, there's the trunk, so the bonnet and the boot, and then also there's the overhead bar, roll bar, and then there's the bodywork underneath the front grille and the rear license plate holder. So when these cars were released by Chrysler, they came with a V10 engine, which was based on a truck engine block, and of course right away people noticed that this is a beautiful car, but it's also a potential race car. It's got the aerodynamics, it's got the low slung design, and it's got this massive big engine. And so it was introduced into 24-hour racing at Le Mans and at Daytona, and it was raced very, very successfully. They actually made a racing version that was able to defeat the traditional cars, the Porsches and the Ferraris, and they also, in the stock class, they mopped up for several years. So it was quite an impressive vehicle. Nothing had been seen like that from American factory since the Ford GT. So here's a car with the same paint job in racing livery, so you can get an idea what I wanted to go. And I believe this car also came from the factory with these stripes. So there, all of the stripes are revealed, and now I got to put it away for a couple of days to cure. So in the meantime, I get the windshield out, and the windshield looks in nearly perfect condition, but it's not perfect. It does have some damage and some light scratches. So I'm going to start at the 3600 with my micro mesh, and I'm going to buff this up. And so it goes very quickly when I'm starting at a already finer mesh, just to get the thing looking perfect. And you have to go with every step of the way. See here at the 8,000 mark, and this is how you get the finish to be so beautiful. 12,000 is so fine that you hardly feel like you're doing anything, but you are in fact cutting material off of it. So after that, I rinse off the water, clean it all up, dry it up, and then I go to my acrylic floor polish and dip the windshield in there. I never used to do the dipping after all that sanding up to 12,000 grit. I always thought that's good enough, but the reality is, if you dip it into the acrylic floor polish, it really comes out looking sharp like crazy, perfect. So I'm very pleased to do that from here on in. And then it takes a long time to dry, and you don't want dust falling onto the soft material until it cures, so we put a plastic cover on it. Now the problem of the ugly wheels, they're designed with a rim on the inside, so I can actually cap the rest of the tire with a 3D printed tire. It's not going to roll very well because it's hard plastic, but it looks beautiful with the Goodyear Eagle white lettering on it. So you can see the ugly wheel, and then I put this cover onto it with a tiny bit of glue, and now it looks pretty. Now these wheels have been worn from a lot of play, so that they flex a little bit. So it's not going to be a roller. This is going to be a display model for sure. So there, I've got my windshield, was protected in that bag after hardening, and time for reassembly of all these parts. So here's where my newfound knowledge comes in. we've got to get it over the tab, and then it just pops onto those buttons very, very easily. Next up is the windshield. So I got to get the headlights into place, and you know if they're in place because then that little square will line up with the little peg on the casting. And then there's little hooks that also hook onto the upper side of that windshield frame. So that holds it in place. So beautiful, like new. And then I put my interior. I made no changes to these parts because they look beautiful. I don't want to mess with them too much. So that piece is in, and now the only thing left over is the base. So I have to pop that in because those exhausts on the side under the rocker panels need to be popped into place. Here I painted a little stripe onto the grill on the front, and then I push it in place, but really when I just slid it into place, that little plastic tab locked it in place already. It doesn't need to be pushed in. And then the rear one goes in there as well. So there, it's fully assembled. What I didn't show you was that I painted the front indicators orange, which is not terribly visible in the final product. And I didn't paint the tail lights because the tail lights would be red, and all I'd be doing is slopping some red paint on top of the other red paint. So I'm just going to go with that basic finish, which makes it very, very simple. So here's what it looks like now. I think it looks gorgeous. It's also the red and white colors of Canada, because this is the Canada Day edition. And I really like it. It looks beautiful, and I'm very pleased with it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Timo's Dinky and Diecast. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so that you won't miss any of my future videos. I've got really good ones coming up. So until next time, be seeing you.